Hey, welcome back to Focus Today, and what a delight to have with us today Jeffrey Stevens. He's a political commentator. He's a contributor to thedailysurge.com. He writes novels, and I think he's kind of a recovering attorney.
Yes, indeed.
According to my note here, Jeffrey, your wife wants you to keep on writing and stay away from law.
That is exactly right, Perry. In fact, as I say to people, if people would just keep buying my novels, the world would have one more political commentator and one less attorney, which I think is a pretty good trade.
That's a good deal. Nice to have you. How you doing, my friend?
Thank you so much. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
All right, jeffreystevens.com is his website, so you can go there. Hey, let's talk poll numbers. They're up and down. They're all over the place. But how would you like to spend $50 million in 1 month and not affect your ratings?
Yes, indeed. Yes, I've said this all along throughout this campaign, even during the primaries. I'm not a big fan of polls. I didn't believe a lot of them then. I don't believe all of it now. But what I do see is that Trump is surging. She is failing. And she's got so many problems right now that it's hard to believe that she's not going to completely implode. People who did not believe that Donald Trump could win this election are coming around. It's just obvious.
Well, one of the things, Jeffrey, that is so alarming to me, I mean, you and I both know this thing's going to be decided by the Electoral College. We're within 4 to 6 electoral votes, I say, or Trump is within 4 to 6 electoral votes. That could be one state. That swing alone is significant, don't you think?
Oh, I think it's very dramatic. I think it's very dramatic. And that's another thing about the polls. You know, it's interesting when they come out with polls and say at one point Hillary was leading by 5 or 6 points. What that poll doesn't take into account is that the two most populous states in the country, New York and California, are not going to go for Trump. So those voters skew any sort of poll because you've got two hugely liberal states that are going to go for Hillary, but that doesn't win her the election. This election is going to be won between the Hudson River and the Rocky Mountains. That's where this election is going to be won. And that's where he's doing well, and that's where he's surging in all of these swing states that people thought he didn't have a chance in. You know, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, things are going well. Things are really going well for him right now. If he stays on message, and your previous guest, you know, was mentioning a lot about that and what's going to happen with the debate. If he stays on message, he's going to be okay.
The big surprise, in spite of John Kasich, he's pulling off Ohio. What do you think?
Yes, I think it's tremendous, and I think it just speaks to the message that he's bringing to the American people, which is a message of let's be great again, let's be safe, let's be a national presidency, not a global presidency. I mean, with everything that's going on, our president goes to the United Nations and starts talking about all the things we need to do about refugees and how we should be letting more refugees in. And today, his own State Department admits that the people that are coming in as refugees have in their midst ISIS and al-Qaeda operatives who are so-called sneaking in with the larger group, and they have no way of dealing with it, they have no way of vetting them, and they're not stopping them. I'm not interested in a global presidency. I'm interested in a national presidency. I want somebody to represent the United States of America and my interests. That's where I am right now.
Hillary Clinton said that the recent bombings, terrorist attacks in the United States, in New York, New Jersey, and then the stabbing over in Minnesota. All of this is a result of Trump's rhetoric against terrorism. What's your take?
Isn't that amazing? I tell you, the temerity of the Clintons will never fail to astound me as the years go on. First of all, unless I'm mistaken, she was the Secretary of State and Barack Obama was president when they created an entire vacuum in the Middle East that gave ISIS the ability to not only rise, but to enrich itself, to become more powerful. Obama's CIA director said just, what was it, a week ago or so, that he said that ISIS is stronger than ever, in effect. And this is on their watch. And now they want to claim that Trump, who is pledging to improve the status of our military, to build the military up, to build up our intelligence community, that he's the one who's provoking ISIS against us. It's ridiculous. I mean, it really is ridiculous. Anyone with a 3-digit IQ can see that. And yet she gets up there and says that, and her supporters say, oh, yeah, that's right. That Trump, he's no good. It makes no logical sense, which anybody could see.
back to the polls just for a moment, Jeffrey. The
Sure.
more that Donald Trump speaks about security, making America safe again, the more his women numbers go up and more women are getting concealed gun permits.
That's right. As they should. As well, they should. There is a Second Amendment still, despite what Hillary Clinton and Democrats would like to do with it. But yes, absolutely. These poll numbers reflect our concerns about security. And take this last weekend. This is a perfect example. First of all, the media, and this astounds me as well, the media turned this terrorist into a celebrity because every program on television keeps showing his face. Why do they make these people into celebrities? I don't even want to hear his name, let alone see his face. CBS this morning, which has the tagline, "The news is back in the morning," showed his face not less than 30 times this morning. Why? Okay, so that's that. Now we've got our president. He was in New York for a fundraiser. He drove down 23rd Street in Chelsea. My son used to live in Chelsea. I know the neighborhood well. He drove down that street, didn't stop, didn't do anything to acknowledge what had occurred, and made no statement about it, but went to a private fundraiser with the restaurateur Danny Myers and his actress wife to raise money, and we could talk about what he said at that later. And in the meantime, Hillary Clinton didn't even acknowledge that it was a terrorist attack. So they're saying now that we don't want Donald Trump as our commander-in-chief. I want Donald Trump as our commander-in-chief. I want somebody in the White House who has power and who will act in a powerful way. And that's what's moving the polls. The stuff about Putin, for example, if you look at what Trump is saying about Putin, he's not saying he's in love with Putin. This isn't the bromance that the liberal media talks about. He's saying that Putin is a powerful leader and he respects that power because our president has been leading from behind for almost 8 years. That's what he's saying, and that's what people are reacting to, and that's why the poll numbers are getting better.
Donald Trump has taken on everything about Hillary, the Democrats, the media, unions, even liberal Republicans. He's gone across the board. There's one thing he hasn't touched, and that's Hillary's health. You think that's a good move?
Yes, I do. I do, because I think that would really be beneath him. I really do. I think that people are going to have to draw their own conclusions. I heard about what Rand Paul had to say. I saw an interesting video by a doctor who was quite a reputable physician who admits that he was not in any way her treating physician, but he's very familiar with Parkinson's. He analyzed all of her symptoms. He broke down several videos of her activities, the way she holds her hands, the way she coughs, the way she moves, and so on and so forth. He's persuaded that she has Parkinson's and doesn't understand why she's not releasing medical records so we know what's going on. That's for the rest of us to discuss. If Donald Trump did that, it would just feel low to me, and I'm glad that he's staying away from that.
I think he's being advised. All right, if you had Donald Trump's ear 20 minutes before the debate, what would you tell him?
I would say it's too late, Donald. You should have called me a week ago. I think is not going to be soon enough, Perry. My concern about the debate, to be honest, is that he seems to be taking the position that he could wing this debate the way he did the primaries. Primaries are different. This is a run for the presidency now. Hillary Clinton, say what we will about her, is highly intelligent. She was First Lady for 8 years. She was a senator. She was Secretary of State. She knows where the countries around the world are. She knows who their leaders are, Perry. She knows the answers to a lot of the questions, and he's got to bone up on that. So my first piece of advice would have been do some homework. Don't just think you're going to go in there as a sloganeer and win people over. That's number one. Number two, 20 minutes before the debate, I would say take her head off. Don't be shy. Go at her. Stay away from the health issue, but go after everything else. The emails, Benghazi, her foundation. Go after her. People have to see who this woman really is. So that's how I would attack.
She's gone underground until till Monday. She didn't even go to a fundraiser last night. Does she really need 5 days to warm up for an hour-and-a-half debate?
Well, look, I don't blame anyone for preparing. I think you can't over-prepare for these things. I think preparation is good. But you and I know this is a smokescreen. She's hiding because she's not well. And the stress of an hour-and-a-half debate, even though you say it's only an hour and a half, it's a long time for someone who's not well to stand up there under the scrutiny of the questions that'll be asked by Lester Holt and the attacks that'll come from Trump. And by the way, Lester Holt himself is under quite a bit of pressure, as you probably know in the media. And the thing is, you know, people saying, oh, that liberal Lester Holt, he's going to be so terrible, and so on and so on. The fact is, the guy's been a registered Republican for years, and I expect him to be at least reasonably fair. I know he pitches for a liberal team over at NBC, but he should be asking questions that are going to be tough for both of these candidates. And Hillary Clinton's got to be concerned that she holds up under the lights, under the scrutiny. I mean, up to now, it's been a cakewalk for her. She was debating Bernie Sanders. She didn't even have to, she could sleep late to debate Bernie Sanders, for God's sake. So she's got to be careful here. But Trump's got to be careful, too. He's got to come across as presidential, but at the same time, he's got to keep the gloves off and be willing to go at her.
Tricky thing to do.
Yes, it is. It really is. It's a tightrope. Yeah. It's a tightrope.
Yeah. Jeffrey, you're a delight. Thanks. Let's hook up again. By the way, you can go to jeffreystevens.com. How's the novel writing coming?
It's doing well. I quite enjoy it. You know, the Jordan Sandor series, and the latest, as you were kind enough to say, is Rogue Mission. It's a lot of fun because I write it about an American hero. This is based on a real CIA agent that I know. And these people who work in covert ops, I believe me, the American public would be stunned at how many plots and how many potential attacks are thwarted by these people who get no recognition. By definition, they live in the shadows, and they're just great people. And so I try and write gritty, realistic thrillers. And this one, believe it or not, has as its centerpiece the attack of a UN humanitarian mission into Syria. I swear to you, that's true. And when this happened over the weekend, you can imagine the number of calls and emails I got. So I said, I'm sorry, I didn't predict it. I just fictionalized it.
Wow. Wow.
It's a tough world. Yeah, it's a tough world.
All right, there's a picture of the novel on the screen there, and let me encourage you to get a copy of it, Rogue Mission. There's a picture up there on the screen. Check it out at the bookstores. Thanks, Jeffrey. Let's connect again soon, okay?
Thank you so much.
All right, talk to you soon. We'll be right back.